talk about the public writing series because that's why you guys are here. All right. Now, it has always been our dream to offer free, quality liberal arts classes, right? It's just so incredibly important. We really do this because we're passionate about this. And this is going to be part lecture, this is going to be interactive, and the whole point is to engage all of you. We want to make it fun, all right? This is something I'm really passionate about. Sagan is as well, Sam is as well, and we're just so very lucky to have all of you guys here and our wonderful instructors. Okay, so the public writing series, this is the first one. All right, these are going to take place on a monthly basis. There's going to be one class. It's going to be a Friday evening, generally the third Friday of every single month. It's going to be around 90 minutes long, and every month is going to have two things: a book of the month and a theme to focus our discussion. All right, so in this case, it's going to be Harry Potter, and well, there are so many things in Harry Potter, but it's going to be fate versus choice. All right. Now, I want you guys to please stay to the end of the class because that's when we're going to actually announce our November book of the month / series. And it's kind of cool and we're really pumped for it. And it's going to be grim. It's going to be awesome. So stay to the end. All right. Now, let me just, for those of you, oh, well, actually, let's just talk about the agenda very quickly. It's pretty straightforward. This is not, set in stone or anything. We may go a little longer discussion or a little shorter in some other places, but we're going to have a thematic discussion. Sagan is going to tell us about fate and choice in Harry Potter. Then we're going to have a small in-class writing assignment. You're going to do it over Google Form and submit it to us. All right. We're also going to do a mini debate. This is so exciting. We're so excited about this debate. Will it be messy? Probably, but it will be fun. Actually, Sagan's like, it will definitely be messy. Yes, it will. All right. And the very last part is a live editing session that Sam is going to take us through. Basically, a lot of you guys have to do writing in school. The question is, how do you proofread it? We want you guys to know how we proofread your writing. Okay. So you're going to watch us edit effectively, or you're going to watch Sam edit. Okay. So that is going to be the general structure. We may run over a little, and that's totally fine. Okay. But that is going to be the format for all our the public writing series. Okay. Now, a lot of you are current students of ours, but I just want to give you a very quick overview. We are currently in the middle of our fall term. For those of you who are my current students, please sign up for parent-teacher conferences so we could tell you about your midterms. Yes, we can. But you can see that we have intro classes up through 8th grade. So this is about 4th to 8th grade. We've got XPOS classes. That's more for high school level. And the Hum series is really fascinating. I want to talk a little bit about that later because basically these classes are based off the Hum series philosophy. We also have grammar. Let's see. Oh, Shreya is in. Very nice. Okay, we also have grammar, which Sam teaches 4 levels of, and EWJ, which is our own newspaper that students write on a very regular basis. They'll be doing daily reading and a lot of writing. Okay, so this is a very high level of all our offerings, but we're actually here to talk about Harry Potter, and Sagan found this adorable like slideshow theme, which I really dig. So Sagan, unmute yourself. I am going to stop sharing the screen right now, and I'm going to hand it off to you, okay? Are we pumped for this?
I'm pumped. All right. Can we all see the slides? Are we feeling good? All right, so today we're going to talk about Harry Potter, and we're going to talk about a very specific thing about it. We're going to talk about fate versus choice. And what that means is it kind of boils down to this question, which is, what shapes your destiny? Chance or your choices? Somebody is drawing on my screen. I'm going to ask whoever's drawing on my screen to not draw on my screen. Thank you very much. Moving from that, so before we begin, I want us to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so I want to start off with, what is theme? And so if you're in the Hum series, we've talked about theme a lot, odds are. Theme is basically the underlying message of a text or the argument that a text is making. And so every single text you'll read in your life has an argument. Even Harry Potter has an argument. Harry Potter has tons and tons and tons of arguments. So today we're going to talk about one. So the argument between fate versus choice is something that has really dated back for a very long time. And it kind of comes with two schools of thought that we're going to talk about. So the first school of thought is the idea that fate is what determines your destiny, that chance determines your destiny more so than anything. Or in other words, that our destiny is largely decided by factors outside of our control. And a very fancy vocabulary word you can use to describe this chain of thought is called determinism. So what that means is that determinists believe that there's some force out there. Sometimes it's God, sometimes it's just kind of like universal randomness that plays a larger role in shaping your life than you would be able to shape your own life. And so to understand this argument, because it might be kind of new, I want you to think about the conditions that you were born in. So think about, what your life is like, and then think about how would your life look differently if you were born in a different gender, a different race, if you're born into a different family, a different economic status, a different country, even a different time period, right? These are all factors that shape our life that we have no control over. They're just kind of given to us. We just pop up here and we already have all of these things that affect us. So if any of those conditions changed, how do you think your life would change? How do you think it would change what you value or how you would make your decisions? And if you think it might change your life a lot, then you might be a determinist. On the other side of the argument is the idea that choice determines your life, so that your destiny, how your life ends up, is really shaped by your decisions. And this team is kind of called the free will team, which means that you have control of your life. So this really simply means that the conditions that you're born in, like your gender, your race, your country, your time period, they do have a role in shaping how your life turns out, but they kind of have a limited role. Like they don't determine everything for you. You have the power to choose things, to make decisions that really affect how your life turns out. And so the question that we're asking today is that, once again, this is a very, very contentious, very long-standing debate. We're asking, what does J.K. Rowling think? Because this is a huge thing in the book. And there are so many different interpretations of what J.K. Rowling might think of this. So on the determinist side, those who think that fate really determines how your life turns out, they point out first the premise of the book. So Harry's fate, low key, kind of seemed laid out for him the moment he was born, right? In the first book, Harry is introduced as he was born this legend, like before he could even walk. Every child in the future is going to know exactly his name. It was decisions made before he was born that put him in the position that he was in. That the death of his mother sacrificing herself for him, locked Harry into this position of being a supreme force of good, right? He became this leader in this wizarding war and was made a leader in this war before he even could talk. He was just born that way. And so that argument seems to suggest that maybe J.K. Rowling does believe that a lot of your destiny is kind of shaped by what you're born into and that you don't really have much control over it. Other people point to the house system, so like Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw. If you get into that house, odds are you're going to become something. You're going to end up in a legacy. If you're a Gryffindor, you're going to end up as this very courageous person. They also point out that a lot of families have these dynasties, right? Like if you're a Weasley, you're going to Gryffindor. If you're a Potter, you're going to Gryffindor. If you're a Malfoy, you're going to Slytherin. And they say that you getting to this house system, you having these values of courage or ambition, it's not really your choice, right? If you're born into a Weasley family, all you know is courage. Like all you know is friendship. And it's not really your choice to have those values. They're kind of embedded in you. They're long generations that have kind of created you. So maybe your destiny isn't you. There's also a lot of other things that seem really important in the Harry Potter universe that you have no say in, like how the wand chooses the wizard, or even looking at Harry's like closest relationships, Ginny and Hermione. Both of them kind of, or Ginny and Ron and Hermione, both of them kind of happened randomly, right? Like Harry ran into Ron while trying to find the platform, and then his relationship with Hermione happened because a random troll attack, right? These aren't things that he like chose. They're just things that kind of happened randomly. But kind of the biggest argument points to the prophecy that J.K. Rowling might be a determinist. And if we don't remember what the prophecy was, it was the prophecy that foresaw that Harry and Voldemort would have a final battle to the death. And so people often point to this and go, you know, the existence of seers, of like divination, the idea that you can see somebody's destiny before it happens, kind of suggests that J.K. Rowling might think that there's some force in the world outside of our control that lays out our path in life before we even kind of get to it, which is what the prophecy kind of suggests. And so they say that Harry's full journey through the book, his journey to his end battle with Voldemort, it wasn't really his choice, right? He had this sincere obligation of loyalty to, he was just kind of plopped into the middle of it, and there was no other way that the story could end. And it had nothing to do with his choices. It just happened to do with where he was born, who he was born as, and what the stars kind of told him to do. This is very contentious. This is a very contentious interpretation. And if some people, if they heard me say this, they would be like, you're so wrong. So we're going to talk about those people. Other people argue a lot about the prophecy. They're like, there's no way that the prophecy is actually proof that J.K. Rowling thinks our destiny is outside of our control. Because they argue what Dumbledore kind of says, which is that even if the prophecy hadn't existed, even if Harry wasn't kind of born into this, he would have chosen to battle Voldemort anyways. And this kind of comes into that famous quote where Dumbledore is saying that it's kind of the difference between being dragged into the arena to face a battle to the death and walking into the arena with your head held high. That maybe your life conditions kind of point you in that direction, but you have the ability to choose how you actually approach it. Which kind of leads to the counter argument. So some people argue that J.K. Rowling really believes in free will, really believes that your destiny, your life, is shaped by your choices. So first, they point to the fact that Sears' divination isn't that reliable, right? Professor Trelawney, she was kind of crazy, and J.K. Rowling really pointed her that way. They also show that the values kind of shape the house system, right? On the other hand of that is that you make courageous choices, and that's why you're put in Gryffindor, not that you're put in Gryffindor and that makes you make courageous choices. And then they also point to maybe Harry's relationships were based on his choices. Like his relationship with Ginny and Hermione were both similarly based on his decision to go in and save them in the first two books. And of course, there's the not Slytherin argument, which is that Harry and Tom Riddle are very similar, right? They come from very similar backgrounds. They were both orphans. They both felt most at home at Hogwarts. They both didn't have a lot going for them and they were young. But the difference in how they turned out was their choices. So Harry put on the Sorting Hat, and the Sorting Hat thought, wow, you could really be a really great Slytherin. And Harry was like, please, please don't do that. It's his choice. It was, Harry had a say in where he was put. There's also the fact that even though Harry and Tom had very similar childhoods, they had very different attitudes towards Muggle-born wizards. And also there's the fact that Harry just turned out to be a very humble person. He always chose humility, while Tom always kind of chose, you know, pride. Which kind of leads to one of the biggest arguments that I think people who think J.K. Rowling believes in free will has, which is the Voldemort versus Dumbledore character battle. So J.K. Rowling kind of paints Voldemort as this person who always blames random chance, right? He's always saying, you were lucky this time, Harry. Like if X and Y and Z hadn't happened, I would have gotten you this time. He's always blaming fate or his failures. Dumbledore, on the other hand, is always pointing to Harry's choices. He's always saying, your choices are what make you who you are, not who you were born as. And so some people say that J.K. Rowling, through the character of Dumbledore, is making an argument that we do have free will or free choice, rather than making an argument that everything is completely determined by fate. But again, this is really contentious. There are a lot of people on both sides of the fact. And while Dumbledore really does seem to champion choice, it's also not a coincidence that J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter as born into this position, right? Which leads us to our writing prompt. So today we have a really great chance to do some writing together, and we have a fantastic prompt for you. So I tried to keep the lecture short because I know a lot of you already hear me speak like a lot. So I'd like to hear, and Jane and Sam would all like to hear what you guys have to think about this debate, because I'm sure you guys have a lot to say. So here's the prompt. I'm going to explain it really quick, and then we're going to have 20 minutes to write. At the end of the Chamber of Secrets, so the second book, Dumbledore says to Harry, "It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." To what extent do you believe J.K. Rowling agrees or disagrees with Dumbledore? To what extent do you agree? And we'd like you to use some evidence. So your vast knowledge of Harry Potter's, this is when it comes into handy. So use some evidence from your readings to back up your claims. So there's a couple of things that we'd like you to include when you're writing. The first is an introductory statement. So this is a statement that we use to introduce our prompt and introduce our argument. 2 pieces of evidence, so 2 examples from Harry Potter. You can take it from what I've talked about. You can take it from your own writing that support your belief, so your argument. And then finally, a concluding statement. So what do you want us to take away from reading your piece? And you can write this all at this Google form. I think, is the link in the chat, Jane?
I just dropped it into the chat.
So the link is...
Just, by the way, guys, you're strike 1 on the chat. 3 strikes and I'm closing it.
So the link is in the chat. Did you want to talk to them before they write or after?
No, I think all you guys need to do right now is go to the chat. So why don't you stop sharing your screen? Thank you for that lovely lecture, Sagan. The prompt is going to be in the Google form. Okay, so if you guys click on it, you will come to this page. Let me just share my screen with you guys. All right, so it's going to be Harry Potter, Fate versus Choice. The prompt is here. All right, just fill this out quickly and start writing your paragraph down there. You guys have 20, did we say Sagan? 20 minutes? You guys have 20 minutes to write and submit the form. Don't worry, we won't embarrass you and like show it to the world. We'll just get to see it. We really want you guys just to do some sort of writing assignment under time pressure, and we are going to post the ones that we like. Okay, so why don't you guys take 20 minutes now, and good luck. All right, if you have any questions, please drop it into the chat box. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for doing this little exercise. It's okay if you're not done. That is totally all right. Okay, so let me actually go back to sharing my screen for a moment before I hand it back to Sagan. But some of you may know that I have recently started a Slack channel, all right? Especially if you're one of my students at EWC. A lot of our work and recordings, everything goes over Slack. We do have one that is for the public writing series. So even if you're not an EWC student, you should definitely join it. The responses that we like, we are actually going to Sanjay. I could see your name on there. Stop writing. Okay, so for those of you who have finished and really wanted to share, we can post it on our anthology channel and our public Slack channel. So please go to airwritingcenter.slack.com. Okay, you're gonna get some something like this. Hold on one second. Okay, you're gonna get something like this, and then just put your name and make a password, and you'll be all set. All right. But